Okay, everybody, so you've all asked, people have been pestering me about it for years. Everybody's seen the pictures of my pizzas that I make, and they all want to know how am I doing it, what my recipe is. So first thing we're going to do is we are going to start with the dough. So first thing we have is I use 690 grams of all-purpose flour, and to that we are going to add 9 grams of yeast and 15 grams of sugar. Sugar is going to feed the yeast and get the rising process started. And then to season the dough, we are going to add 20 grams of kosher salt, 15 grams of oil, and then 455 grams of warm water. You don't want it too hot because you don't want it to kill your yeast. And then we're just going to attach our bread hook and get it started mixing. Okay, now at this point when the dough starts to come together, you're going to go from more of a shaggy dough to more of a solid mass. The trick is going to be, depending on the temperature and the humidity wherever you are, you may have to adjust the measurements of the flour to water a little bit. If the dough is too sticky, then you just add a little bit of flour. If the dough is too dry and it's not coming together, then you would add a little bit of water. But I like to play with the speed here a little bit and really get the dough worked. You can tell when the sides of the bowl are becoming clean if you're using an electric mixer like me. Once there's no more loose flour in there, then it's really starting to come together. And this is the point where I eventually will take the dough ball out and start to work it by hand. To start, I'm just going to lay down some flour and put down our dough. Now, if you've never kneaded dough by hand before, all you need to know that it's just a push, rotate, and pull motion. That's it. So we're going to push the dough out, turn it, and push. Push out, pull it in, rotate it. And we're just turning the dough in on itself over and over until it goes from a lumpy mass into a smoother, tighter ball. You're going to be able to feel it because it's going to just go from just being a pile of mush to where it's actually going to feel like it has some denseness to it. Once you have kneaded for about 5 minutes or so, you can see it's become a lot smoother, shinier. So then what I'll usually do is I start to turn it in on itself, and then I try to just spin it into a ball. Now, this you don't necessarily have to do. This is just one of my little techniques. I've done this so many times that as I'm turning it, you'll notice I'm like pulling my hands down to the bottom. So I'm actually pulling the dough ball from the top down the sides. And what this does is it tightens the outer skin, and we close up the bottom. And then into our bowl it goes, and then I'm going to cover it with some plastic, and that's that. Now it will sit for the next few hours to rise. Okay, as you can see, the dough has risen just a little bit, so now I'm just going to scoop it all out, and we're going to punch it down, and I'm going to divide it into 2 separate dough balls so it can do its next rise. And now, I like to use these round cake pans to let them rise in, because I want these both to rise in a circular shape. That way they are, you will see, they will be easy to shape into traditional pizza disc shape when they are done. And that is that for about an hour. To start the sauce, we need a can of tomatoes. You can use diced or whole, it doesn't matter as long as they're skinned, and you need about 28 ounces. I have drained these because you don't want the water that will make a really soppy mess. So in go the tomatoes, and then we have 2 cloves of garlic that I've minced, 1 teaspoon of sea salt, and 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And finally, just a little bit of fresh ground black pepper. And now we blend it smooth. And that is it, we're done. This is a raw sauce that is going to cook on the pizza. Okay, now to stretch out our dough, we're going to put down a good amount of flour on our work surface. And then you can see how much our dough has risen. And I'm going to coat both sides. Now we have to push the air down out of this, but we want to push it to the edges. So I'm only going to use the pads of my fingers, not the fingertips, but just the pads. We're going to start in the center and work our way to the outer edge. Pushing the air to the edge. And then I'm going to put a little bit of coarse cornmeal down on the peel to keep it from sticking. And then we just transfer to that. And now we're going to add some of our sauce. And our cheese. And some pepperoni. Just a little bit of parsley for garnish. And done.